Welcome today to this webinar about the relevance of data management in AI. I'm Anna Moreira. I'll be your host. As we get started, we'll do some introductions quickly.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Herman Badenhorst, and I'm heading up the data management practice of the Evolve Group. Over to you, Anna.
Thanks, Herman. So I'm Anna Moreira, working with Herman, and I'm a certified data management professional. I've been in this game for, don't want to even tell you the years, but 25 plus. I'm dating myself, and I am basically a data geek at heart, and I've been specializing in the last kind of 8-9 years in building unified data platforms. So basically the combination of data lakes and analytical platforms and data warehouses into unified platforms, which is what everyone's after. And I'll take you through this presentation, which I really enjoyed putting together. Because anyway, hopefully you'll enjoy it as well. I'd like it to be interactive, so ask lots of questions. And yeah, I see we have people from, some people that are from aviation, some people from telecoms. So I'll try to make it as relevant as possible. But please do ask lots of questions. Okay, so today we are going to talk about some data management concepts. We're going to focus on, your traditional data management, but the key areas that we need that are relevant to help us to build the right foundations so that we can successfully use AI in our environment. So we're going to talk about data governance, organizing and classifying our data, obviously data quality, which is absolutely key. And then obviously the actual platform pieces, the integration, the storage, the analytical capability. Then we're going to talk about the role that data is playing in AI, and then we will actually look at how AI is actually helping us to do data management.
So Evolve is a pioneering company founded in 2002. And we're driving innovation in tailored solutions, products, and services. Evolve is privately owned, but we've got a global presence, and we've established our roots in South Africa, but we extended into Dubai, Lebanon, and Egypt. Our vision encapsulates our commitment to the aspirations of our stakeholders, which is our valued employees, our trusted partners, and esteemed shareholders. We believe in a collaborative journey where each stakeholder achieves their utmost aspirations, fostering a culture of growth, fulfillment, and success. So our mission then is simple, but it's powerful. We partner closely with our customers to co-create and implement bespoke products, services, and solutions. But this collaborative approach is centered on enabling our clients to realize and surpass their aspirations, serving as a catalyst for their success. So we take pride in our commitment to delivering unparalleled value through a diverse array of practices tailored to meet the evolving needs of our clients. Now, with our steadfast focus on customer centricity, innovation, and expertise, we offer a comprehensive suite of practices designed to drive success in today's dynamic business landscape. Now, the following of the presentation will focus on the data management practice.
What is data management? It's a professional association that has got a thorough framework for data management. I just want to take you through the picture on the right, the triangle, because I think it gives us a very good idea of what is foundational for us to get to the triangle right at the top, which is obviously the holy grail that everybody's after, which is the artificial intelligence and data analytics. So what's important to see here is that data governance is absolutely key in this environment and then we've got some foundational elements that kind of support and enable the rest of the building blocks as you go up the triangle. So I thought it would be fun instead of me regurgitating data management. So I looked at AI and generative AI, and I used CapCut to generate some content. I was very impressed with the results. I literally just went and replaced some of the pictures, but I was it worked out the sound for me. It worked out I literally typed in talk about data management in a 2-minute video, and it generated the script. I literally fixed 1 or 2 things, and it saved me a lot of time because I was looking for a nice little pop-up video, and I landed up generating my own.
Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to discuss what data management is and how it can benefit your business. Data management is the process of organizing, classifying, and managing data to ensure it is accurate, complete, and easily accessible. It is an essential aspect of any business, as it helps to drive decision-making, improve efficiency, and increase productivity. Reference frameworks help us to stay industry-aligned. Let's look at the DMPOK, which stands for the Data Management Body of Knowledge. This framework, developed by DAMA, provides a best practice approach to data management. Some of the key areas are data organization and classification. This area focuses on creating a clear structure for your data, as well as defining the relationships between different data elements. Data ownership and governance. This aspect ensures that data is owned and controlled in a way that aligns with the business objectives and legal requirements. Data quality. This area focuses on identifying and resolving any inconsistencies, inaccuracies, and biases in the data that may impact its accuracy and reliability. Scalable and unified data platforms. These platforms enable easy access to data, while also ensuring that it is secure and compliant with the relevant regulations. In conclusion, data management is crucial for any business, as it helps to organize, classify, manage, and maintain accurate and reliable data. By implementing these best practices and ways of work, you can ensure that your business has a solid foundation for data management, which can ultimately lead to better decision-making, increased efficiency, and improved productivity. This is foundational if we hope to stay relevant and competitive in today's fast-changing world. As we move into the world of AI, good data provides trusted AI insights.
Okay, so not too bad for something that generated, and it saves people a lot of time. And in this data management world, which is sometimes a confusing subject, doing videos like this and educating your business actually is absolutely critical. So having AI help us to build content is very useful, because you could save a lot of time just by creating general content and then customize it here and there. Hope you enjoyed that.
Hello.
Oops. Okay. Anyway, let's go to what is AI. This is just an overview. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. But one of the things to understand is that AI is already with us. It's in our virtual assistants, Siri, it's in our financial services, in trading platforms. It's being used everywhere. It's being already used to diagnose diseases. It's in self-driving cars. I was chatting to a colleague of mine, and he was taking a meeting, and I was presenting to him. And I was horrified to hear that he was very attentive to my presentation, but he was driving at the same time. And he told me, no, but he's in a Tesla. So he was actually attending a meeting and the car was driving him home. So I was blown away. I still get blown away by that, but it's happening. And of course, creating the video that I just did is generative, what's being called generative AI. And there's even art, AI art, because people are the orchestrators now. AI is doing a lot of the groundwork for us already. So what does this mean? Already 14% of workers have experienced job displacement. We have an estimation by SEO.ai. There's an article that said that by 2030, 800 million jobs worldwide will be impacted, with an economic impact reaching $15 trillion. So there's a lot going on, and we have to stand up and take notice and get prepared, and not get discouraged. We're going to have to redefine a lot of what we do, become orchestrators rather than doing all that groundwork, and we have to really upskill. So our people, our workers in data literacy is absolutely key. And you'll see that a lot of big companies are spending a huge amount of effort in data literacy programs. So in a nutshell, AI consists of, it's a broader term to catch terms like machine learning, cognitive computing, computer vision. So you have already apps that recognize plants, that recognize if there's something wrong with the plant. A lot of people already using that technology. Neural networks, natural language processing, your LLMs, which is your ChatGPT, for example, and everybody is, maybe give me a thumbs up. How many of you use ChatGPT on a regular basis? Just to get a pulse of how many people are using ChatGPT on a regular basis. If you could use yeah. Okay, great. I can see lots of thumbs up happening. Exactly. But you know what's scary is that a year ago, I hadn't even heard of ChatGPT. So it's changing. Things are changing fast. Okay. We're going to concentrate on data management key areas first. So we're going to talk about data governance and data ownership, and how important, what is the data asset register and how important it is. Okay, so everybody, again, I used a diagram. I used a circular diagram, but it's very similar to that triangle that we saw earlier. Oh, there's a question from Frank. Frank?
Sorry, that's a mistake.
Oh, okay, no problem. So if we look at right at the top of that, data insights is the holy grail. That's what everybody's after. Data insights being given to us by normal analytical queries or building data products using AI. That all falls in that realm. But that's what everybody wants, right? But without the inner circles, it's very difficult to have that with trust and with confidence. So we have to start in the inner circle, which is really data ownership. You have to look at who are the people that are responsible for these areas of data in the business. How are they sharing that data? So if you look at the next block can you guys see my arrow, my pointer?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the people that are going to share the data with the rest of the organization or even external are the data owners. They have that responsibility, and you need to first establish that, right, to get there. And then the transparency is making sure the data is available, has lineage, and the rules are transparent so everybody understands where it's coming from, where that data, so they can trust it. And data stewards play a big role in that data transparency section, because they are responsible, for example, to define the rules, and they're responsible for the quality, and they need to be part of whenever you're building something. They need to be part of making sure that the data, the rules are good, and there's lineage and transparency, and the data is available on time. So whereas in the past, our businesses used to push everything towards IM and say, no, this is an IM or an IT problem, the world has changed a bit. You cannot make it an IT problem. It's not. IT cannot be accountable for the data and its quality. They definitely custodians and make sure that it's backed up and that the workloads and the integration piece is running. They definitely are playing a role, but as well as be advisory to create the right, to make sure the right platforms are there. But in terms of the data, its quality, its availability, how it is shared, and how those insights are built, it's all back to business. Key areas in data governance is definitely you need to start with creating some kind of policies and ways of work. You need to identify almost like sponsors or champions in business that will help you and help you, even though you can take, you don't have to start from scratch. You can take ideas from what's out there. You need to create some kind of a policy that you can go back to, so that when you approach business to start or with your data literacy programs, or start adopting and rolling out this, that you've got something to hang on to, and then have some ways of work established so that they know what they have to do on a regular basis. And of course, that comes with some training as well. Very important is you need to sit with these champions that help you flesh out a data asset register. Again, you don't have to start from scratch. There's a lot of industry standard, and I'll show you an example or two of what that looks like. And then, of course, once you have this data asset register, which is really a grouping of types of data with reference to the business process that it sits in, then you can start saying, okay, now who should be the data owners there? Who should be the data stewards? So you almost create a data ownership squad that would be then responsible for that area or that data domain. And then, of course, as that policy will help them define what is the responsible data usage. They have to comply, make them aware of the compliance and regulations. And of course, IT gets very involved in any cyber and privacy violations. They have to create the monitoring. You have to create the platform, have the platform that has complete auditability, so that and protection to protect your data and make your business owners happy about it, comfortable with it. Okay, so how is a data ownership squad made up of? This is just an idea, but there's lots of different terminologies used out there, but they all kind of land up playing the same roles. So a data sponsor is really that champion that's going to help you build the data policy and then help you drive that into the business. And they really, they're your sponsor. So they fund and prioritize projects, which, by the way, is a very good way of rolling it out. We found in the past that without a project, a key project, or something that business wants, they're really not interested in talking to you. So you usually need something of value that you're going to build for them to understand. Because if you go back to that circles picture, they don't often understand that, and they just want the product. And you need to educate them a little bit. So we find that usually when they've got a goal they're working towards, when they want something, they want a solution or a system to be implemented, then they're willing to spend the time to do the data literacy training, to understand what their role is and take up that role. Then you got your data owner. And this is obviously person that kind of owns that key data asset. Obviously, the real owner of the data is the corporate or the business. Not you don't want to encourage people to say, "Well, this is mine, and no one can see it," because that's not the idea here. But they are basically accountable at the end of the day for that key data asset, that area. So, for example, in HR, that would be something like employee. In finance, that would be something like chart of accounts. And usually this is aligned to a business process, a key business process in that area of business. So people always ask, how do you identify your data owners? You've got to go back to your business process because you can't divorce your data and your business process, because your business process needs data and it creates the data. So that's why you've got to tie it back to. Yeah, so they are accountable for the availability and quality of the data to be used, and they are the guys that need to authorize who you're sharing this data with. They need to understand how people are going to use their data, because they are accountable, and they need to make sure that their data then is of good quality so that they can share it comfortably. A data steward is now somebody you could have in a data ownership squad. You could have a data owner and then multiple data stewards as well, because they might have a lot on their plate, so they might break up sections. But they are responsible really for the rules of the data, because they are a little bit more hands-on. Your data owner is quite a high up in your management structure, where your data steward is more hands-on with the data. They typically understand how the systems need the data and how they work with the data, and so they define the rules. So they're a little bit like functional experts in that way. And then data custodian is basically most of the time in IT or IM. They are typically technical. They understand the system. So a lot of the times when people say, "Oh, there's a data quality issue," the data steward will look at his data quality report, which he defines, and he will say, "Oh, we need to do a bit of a data cleanup," and they'll give the rules on how to clean it up, and then ask the IT person to actually run those rules into the systems. An example of how it comes together. So I've got a bit of a diagram here on an aviation kind of data domain model, if you look at it. So these would be kind of the key data assets that you would start to flesh out in the aviation industry, for example. And then you'd have your data ownership squad that looks like you've got your data sponsor that obviously supports the data owner. The data owner would own that key data asset. That key data asset is basically flights or crews or position. So that would be the key data asset that sits in here. And then they are stewarded by the data stewards, which are also supported by functional experts. Sometimes you have they have helpers that help them in a functional area, and they're sometimes supported by that. And then you've got your data custodians, which are typically your technical experts sitting in IM. Data asset register. When you identify your data sponsors for those various business domains, you basically sit with them and we agree on what those data assets are. So if we go back to the aviation example, you would have, for example, flights, and then you would go and you would identify what does your data, what are those the different assets. You don't have to start from scratch here. There's a lot of industry standard conceptual data models that can help you with putting that picture. It's just important that the business or that data sponsor helps you define those, so that when you go back to your business and you start rolling this out, that they are pretty happy upfront with that. And a lot of the times they still contest that definition, and sometimes you need to change it. Yeah, so once you've got that data asset model ready, you can then start allocating your data ownership squads on those data assets, to those data assets, and then obviously train and onboard them for their different roles. Okay, then the other important point is obviously keep a data asset register that everyone can easily access, because that becomes the language they start to use. So I'm going to just show you an example. Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Just checking. Never know. Okay, so I'm just going to go show you an aviation example. So how you start is you look at an airline value chain reference model, and this is from a business perspective, what you would do. And then you look at, typically, a lot of this type of stuff has been done. So you just go and look at some reference models that are out there that people have already fleshed out, and you look at an industry standard data model, and you start looking at those data areas or data groupings of data. And I've just taken the AIDM industry standard model for aviation as an example. Then you basically build a data asset register, and then you would then start defining that key data asset, and you would then look at a business area, and if we look back at that picture, I'm just going to take you back to that picture. You see that they split it up into customer touch points, operations, support, and management. Then you would do that. You would say operations, customer touch points, and then you would look at your business locations or business operations. So you'd have maybe in this example, this is probably a terrible example, but we have an aviation operating in Europe, Americas, and EMEA, and then now you'd start putting data sponsor names. And then you would say you'd have a proper data sponsor name. Who is this person? Because they might be different in the different regions or in those different domains. So you've got to create that kind of flexible model to cater for your business. So this can take any shape. It's basically how your business operates. But then the whole point of this is that you basically document your data ownership squad right here. You've got your data sponsor, your data owner, your data stewards, and you could have multiple data stewards, and then you'd have your data custodians. You'd also map out, for example, how far you are. And the nice thing with using like a SharePoint list is that you can add documentation to it. You can document your entire process and say, well, this is complete. Yes, we can trust it. You can also create comments and talk to people and discuss it. So it becomes a very collaborative environment. I mean, typically people have tools like Calibra and all sorts of data governance tools that do this for you as well. But I mean, this is just a very simple example it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be absolutely super simple. Step is that we need to organize and classify our data. So what does that mean? So we've got a data asset register, number one. So from a data source or applications perspective, we should map out what are the types of data that are sitting in those systems. So look at the data sets in those applications. And I know sometimes this is quite a lot of work. So depending on how you plan to build your data platform, you can use federation tools, or you can bring in data into a common data lake, for example, or data platform. When you do that, you should classify your data according to the data asset register from a source perspective, because you need to classify the ownership of where that data is coming from, and you've got to do it at point of source, its origin. So that's the one point. the other point is you need to look at how do you want to organize your data so that when you building something, when you're building some products, that you're going to do it in a reusable fashion, because that's going to make your delivery to your business grow exponentially. So what does that mean? So traditionally, we have something that we all used to call an enterprise data model. And please stop me if you don't understand what that means. If there's questions, please put up your hand and I'll try to explain what that is if you don't understand what, because I do realize there are some business people that might not understand what an enterprise. So it basically defines, so it's similar to the data asset register, but it could be just a little bit more richer because it defines the relationships of the data assets between each other. And it also is a picture of what you're trying to work towards. So right now, you might have a few data applications that have certain types of data. That might not be your end goal. So an enterprise data model, or I actually now call it an enterprise data map. That enterprise data map is basically where you'd like to work towards. And this is, and I'm talking about data products now. It's almost like I want to create, this is what I want to build as in terms of data products. So instead of doing a traditional enterprise data model, which had very strict boundaries and relationships with each other and ways of classifying the data, what we're starting to see is, yes, you still have some of the traditional concepts like I need to definitely have an employee master, which is great. But what I also need is an employee headcount. Now that's a data product. And that data product is what everyone in the organization, for example, is probably going to want. They don't just want an employee master list. They want a defined headcount with their defined list of important attributes that they're going to use, because they're going to take that headcount data product and combine it with, for example, their work orders that they have in their systems for their section. So it's important to then differentiate the difference between a data asset register, which is just classifying the data at its application, versus a target model of what we want our data product world to look like, because that's how you're going to reuse stuff. That's how you build something with governance and responsibility. Does that make sense? Or have I confused everybody? I will show you an example. Let me show you an example. Okay, so if we go back here and we look at maybe manufacturing. We have a data asset register for manufacturing. That this is just an example of what a data asset register for manufacturing would look like. And then we have an enterprise data product map for manufacturing. So whilst it's got the same kind of business operations and support structures, here is where you would build, you would have a lot. So can you see you're going from, you have a lot more things going on here than here. So this is a representation of what your data is in your systems. This is of grouping. This is a representation of what you want to build, because these are products that will then be reused in the organization. So obviously we have master data, which will be highly reused, but then we have also, I know you can't see this. I wonder if I can make it bigger. It doesn't really help me. Yeah, so these, for example, under human resources, you've got something called headcount, and you would have, you would look at, for each industry, what are the valuable products that would be highly reusable. The reason why you want to do this is you want to have ownership. So in a headcount data product, for example, you have a data product owner, which could be the same as your data owner, or it could be somebody else, but they would sit in HR anyway, and they would understand what are the rules. So a lot of people will argue, well, you gave me an employee master list, but it left out all my contractors and I need them. Or it's including all my veterans and I don't want that there, or whatever. So there's always an argument about what are the rules constituting a headcount. And that's the difference. That's why you build something like this, because you need to have accountability of what product you're building. Why do we need to organize and classify our data? I think the main reason is for governance and accountability. People need to be we need to create effective governance as well. We need to be compliant and we need accountability whenever we about our data. We need to also be efficient with our data integration. And when you're buying, for example, I've worked for previous companies where they buy the same data. If each department is buying the same data over and over and over, because obviously there's data that you create and there's data that you buy because you need it to run your business, and that helps with cost reduction. Also helps with cost reduction when you are integrating things correctly. Right, so what are the key activities? You need a data catalog or data inventory, and you need to map and associate it to the data register, like we spoke about. We need a data standardization picture or an enterprise data map of where you're going. We also need to classify our data according to data sensitivity. So, for example, we need to understand like what is PII data, because there's regulation that we have to worry about there. And also, what is the importance? How important is that data? Because then you can also understand from a cost perspective how much you pay attention to it. You then also need to kind of classify at a high level what are the data quality requirements. So you can do that as part of this classification. You need to understand where you're going to store all of this information, how you're classifying it. So from a metadata management, and then from a security perspective, you need to also classify, for example, is this information available to the public? Is this information only internal? Is this information highly confidential, which means that you need to think about masking certain things. And then you also need to, as part of this classification, look at lifecycle management. What is the data retention rules, and how are you using this data? And then, of course, you need to monitor all of these things, because if there's compliance there, you need to make sure you're monitoring it. Okay, data quality. Obviously, data quality is probably key. If you don't have good data quality, whatever goes in, rubbish comes out. Even if you're building AI models, that is absolutely the most important thing. It's just without data governance, you can't have data quality, because you need to understand who's going to be responsible and who's going to give you the rules. So we're building on. I hope you're noticing that we like building on that ladder that I showed you up front. Okay, so dependencies. Obviously, we spoke about the data ownership, governance, and the data classification. It's dependent on us starting to look at data quality. Then the next step is obviously to adopt some quality framework. There's a lot of frameworks out there. Dharma's got ideas, and most people choose and focus on what are the critical dimensions that we need for our business that's going to drive the best value, because you don't want to do analysis paralysis. I mean, I think Dharma's got 11 dimensions or something crazy like that. We want to focus on the things that make the most sense for our business, that are the most critical to get our data right. So a lot of people choose a variation of these, but we see a lot of the following ones being quite popular. So accuracy, validity, completeness, so making sure your data is complete, Is it consistent? If you look at other data in the organization, is it consistent? Do you have integrity? And then, of course, do you have duplication or not? Uniqueness and timeliness. Is your data relevant? And is it available on time? That's the other dimension. So always start with your key master data and critical data, because you need to tackle that first. And then if you are in your business, if you use a lot of time series data from sensors, for example, a lot of people are using IoT to help them in their day-to-day operations. So if you are doing that, you've got to look at what are the data quality processes for time series data, because it's different from normal data quality processes. You cannot fix, for example, your data quality on data that's being generated, 1 million records being generated every minute. It's impossible for you to fix that at point of entry or going back to catch up on that data. So you have to sit with your data stewards and define your ranges and define curation rules and things like, for example, if your data is not complete, can you put a mean average in the middle? Stuff like that, because that is, it's kind of a different animal to the other one. So you've got to look at that. Then you've got to, again, document these curation rules, and also obviously identify any preventative data quality control that you can implement, and when the data is being captured. Like, for example, if the sensor is, if it's an IoT environment and the sensor is faulty because it can't operate, it gets erratic when the temperature goes higher, for example, and it's not coping, it's throwing out a lot of errors, then make a plan. And that might mean a physical implementation of a cooling system around it or something like that. So data quality is going into different strange areas in this space now. But if it's a normal traditional preventative data quality, then you're basically going back into maybe your ERP program and building a data validation rule upfront, where at point of capture you fix the problem and you stop it going bad, because your data quality costs goes higher and higher and higher as it goes down the value chain. The more systems it integrates into, the more it costs, because you have to fix it. Yes, so the other thing that's very important is start slowly with a community of practice to start discussing these data quality issues, and then slowly embed that into a business as usual type forums, or inculcate the practice into an operational environment. So yes, when you build data products as well, sometimes, especially with this AI world, business is not willing to wait. So what we're finding is that when you're building a data product, you will go through you would have to understand what the data quality rule is, pick up the error, try to apply, and sometimes you can't, but a lot of the times you can make a plan. You can say, well, this name was spelled incorrectly, but I know it's this. I've checked it with my data steward and I can go and correct it, because it's just a play on words or whatever. I can apply a soundex and I'm happy that this is the same person or the same category. Or have a master list, create a master list that you can then do a lookup and say, okay, or a mapping, for example. And then you apply that. You don't sit and wait for data quality rule. You apply that as a curation to that data, but at least when the customer sees the data or the AI program needs the data, it's already been sorted out for you. At the same time, you can drop that issue. I see there's a question I'm going to answer you now. At the same time, when you do these data preparations of these data products, you can issue, or if you have a data quality tool, you can test the data quality and then push it into your metrics and results tables. And then you can start reporting it. Okay, all right. What are the best tools that help document data catalog across several products? Oh gosh, I have to stand by. There are lots. So you've got, for example, Talon's Data Fabric. It does it. I think I mentioned it. I do mention it in later in the session. So you can probably flesh it out there. But we've got also things like Databricks' unified catalog they've brought out. Very good product as well. And there's tons. There's actually quite a few of them. So a lot of the times, those tools they started out being very specific to their own product, but now they're starting to elevate that. AWS has got Glue. Trying to think. I mean, there are tools like obviously that have specialized in the space, which is, for example, Informatica. Has got a product called Claire. It even uses AI. A lot of these catalogs are, I'm going to talk about them a bit later. So the new age catalogs use a lot of LLMs and AI to help, because traditionally cataloging, this can be a very onerous job. So why not use AI to help us? Okay, I'm going to continue. Okay, obviously, data platforms are key. Everybody knows everyone's moving to the cloud. Obviously, cloud gives us scalability. It gives us compute from a storage perspective, from a compute perspective. And from a big data perspective, because our data is growing exponentially, and we need to, a lot of people that are on premise, and I mean, there are obviously a lot of people still on premise, but when they want to start using their data, when they start the journey for digitalization, and they want to use AI, you often find that people want to move to the cloud to collect the data from the various systems and then use analytics on that harmonized data that you bring into your lakes, for example. It's very important to streamline that data, the data access or data ingestion. And what we're starting to see a movement, or you can build your own, is have a metadata-driven ingestion of data, or you use data federation, for example, with things like Unity Catalog can do stuff like that. But if you can't afford those tools, then you can, there are lots of tools out there that collect your metadata. So you can use that metadata then to build an engine that gets the data for you and lands the data in your data lake, because you don't have to do ETL these days. ETL is basically extract, transform, and load. What people are starting to do is they do extract, load, and when you've loaded them in your analytics environment, your data lake environment, you then do the transformation there, and you do your transformation in a way that you can get the rules out, and you get the lineage as well. Okay, so that metadata that you collect is obviously absolutely key for your data catalog, because you need all of that information. You need to know where it comes from, when you fetched it, how many records came, what data asset register it's associated with, which application it came from. And that information is important for the data catalog. Again, I know this is not always possible, but this is obviously, I'm talking ideal. If you are going to be looking at investing in a data platform for analytics going forward, you need to consider doing it with tools that give you a unified security model, because that is super key. As you could see, we need to govern, in order to govern our data, we need to make sure it's being shared responsibly, and to have different tools controlling our security is an absolute nightmare, because your executive will come up to you and they'll say, okay, give me a report of how many people are accessing my financial data because they think there's some fraud, or even my GL accounts data because they're doing some investigation. It's very difficult if you've got data warehouses in on-premise systems, and then you've got another operational data store, and then you've got your ERP reporting, and then you've got your if you don't have a unified model that is governing it, or at least some kind of reporting that's happening that gives you that unified picture, it's very difficult. And in this fast-paced world, business is going to demand nothing less than that. And the last bit I've got here is that what we're seeing is, whereas we before had a separation of data lake and BI platforms, data warehouses, we are starting to see the two merge into each other. What's happened in the last while is data lakes or cloud databases, let's put it that way, they've been able to start giving us data warehouse capability, basically. So we can then marry the two worlds quite easily. So that's what I mean about work towards a unified data analytical platforms. And there are lots of good tools out there and technologies that help you build this, so that if you have a unified model and you have your data that's easily accessible, whether that's through federation or in a central platform, your analytical algorithms where you're going to train your models should be accessing that same data. So that you don't have to worry about, because what we find with data scientists in the past is they spend like most of their time wrangling the data, cleaning it up, making it, they spend all their time on the wrong things. And then only they classify the data for their algorithms and then create and do the analysis. Whereas they need to be focusing on the last bit. If you make it easy, if the data is available, it's been quality assured, it's got all the metadata, and they trust it, those data scientists, then they will use that data. They'll use the data products that you've created. So there's been a convergence of data lakes and data warehouses into these cloud platforms that give you the same capability. There's also technology like Federation available that allows you to have this same kind of access to data and give your business. And then what's happened as well is because business is needing that data very quickly, very fast, they're starting to want to do things on their own. So instead of giving them a nice Power BI report, which they're just going to download into Excel and combine it with the other Power BI report they got from the ERP and mash it up, rather give them the ability to do it themselves, so they can have access to the data that is feeding those Power BI reports and then create their own data products. So there's a lot of self-service. We're seeing a lot of drive towards where business analysts in business, they're already doing that. They're just doing it in Excel. So now what you're doing is you're training them, rather come here and let's do a little bit of data literacy, upskilling, and now you can build your own data products, because there you've got governance, control. If it's an Excel spreadsheet, you have no auditability. You don't know what they merged, what they got out. Like this, it's completely auditable. So just some key areas and tips. Really think about that metadata-driven acquisition. Because if you build that engine, it doesn't matter if you've got 100 files you want uploaded or 10 files, it's going to do it. It's configuration, and the data is going to land there the next day, because that's how it helps you. Avoid ETL rather do the ELT, like I spoke before, which is extract, load, and then only transform it when it's in your platform. Again, transform your landed data using the methods that helps you create the right lineage and transparency. When you looking at doing this, you need some kind of an architecture and a framework to work towards. So decide if what makes sense for your business. Is there a lot of data integration where you need to share data all over the place with your applications? Or are you happy to centralize and build a data fabric versus data mesh? So those are the differences between the two. So you've got to really understand what is going to benefit your business the most, and then adopt an architecture that's going to give you and shape that governance. So medallion architecture is, for example, they talk about, okay, I'll land my data, I don't change it, it's in a bronze state. But then I'm going to do some curation. I'm going to make it, standardize it, and I'm going to make it available for everybody. So I'm going to look at my enterprise data map, and I'm probably going to build the key master data in the silver layer. And then when I build insights, I'm going to call it a gold product, for example. That's just an example, but I mean, you can define your own medallion architecture. It can be as many levels as you like. It's what makes sense to you. But there has to be some rules, and there's got to be some transparency. I think that's the key area here. Auto classification, if possible. So if you can use tools, because then it makes it more sustainable. Or at the very least, when you ingest your data into your platform, classify it according to your data asset register. This is just some examples. Why is good data quality data needed for AI? So if you're building an AI model and you're doing a predictive model, for example, the accuracy of those predictions are going to be based on your data. If your data is of bad quality, then you're going to get bad predictions, and the wrong decisions might be made. So an example in healthcare, basically to diagnose diseases, this could be critical. So you need to know and make sure that the data you're providing it is relevant, and that is of good quality, using all those dimensions we spoke about earlier. So when you are looking at training your model, you basically have to choose your data set correctly. You need to decide which data you're going to train on, and it's got to be that data set. You almost need to go and find a data set that is of good quality, and then you're going to split it up into how you're going to train it, what you're going to use to test your development, and how you're going to test it as well. So you got to really think about the data so that you can train it. You also need to think about, if you are building a model, that you have no bias in that model. So sometimes you have to not just look at a sample, but you might have to make sure you take samples from different areas, depending on what you're doing. And there's obviously an example there about facial recognition or gender bias. You need to make sure you have enough data from the different genders and the different races and things, so obviously to reduce the bias. So the efficiency and cost effectiveness as well. So if you have accurate data, you're going to be able to create a good user experience, especially if you want to create automated customer service. A lot of people, I don't know if you guys have experienced these bots and these chat bots, and they're starting to, because their data is not great, often the user experience with the chatbots is not a fantastic one, and people feel frustrated. So that's not going to create a good customer experience. Obviously, any kind of financial information, you need good data quality, because otherwise you would have, if you have the wrong information, you could be providing incorrect credit scoring or even fraud detection. These are obviously just some examples. With autonomous vehicles, you need to have good geographic information and sensor data and technology that helps you to adapt to the ever-changing environments. If your geographic coverage is not good, if that information is not great, you're gonna land up in trouble. And of course, with e-commerce systems, recommendation systems, if your pricing information or even understanding your customer needs and their history and their buy history, if that's not good, you're not going to get a good customer experience with your e-commerce side of things. Okay, so this is just an example of a typical algorithm, an AI model lifecycle. So you start with data preparation, then you build your model, then you do your training and your tuning, then you do your deployment. So you prepare that deployment. So typically what we're seeing is you train your models usually in the cloud, for example, but a lot of people are wanting, they don't want just a report anymore. They want that if they trust it, obviously this would take some kind of a time and have to run and make sure that they're comfortable. Well, what people are really after is operational insights that feeds back into the operational environments. So what happens is you usually train with a big data set up in the cloud, and then you deploy that model as an executable that runs on your operational devices and environment. So then that model deployment is key, and it's important to make sure that your AI development environment or tool, technology that you're using can cater for that, because that's where everyone's going. And then, of course, you need to, over time, you need to always monitor, because as you run data through your trained algorithm, your data could be changing. And then that means you could be creating drift in the predictions your algorithm's giving you. So you have to, just because you deployed that algorithm and it's been signed off by business, doesn't mean it stops there. You have to continuously monitor it, and actually your business product owner for that should be given reports that continuously are showing them if there's drift in the algorithm or not. Cool. Okay, this is just an example of a typical life cycle, and all I want to illustrate here, don't have to understand this, is typically you need to collect your data. Then you need to validate the data. And all I want to highlight here is that it's all about the data. Collect it, you validate, you prepare. Then you prepare domain-specific data. Then you select the data for the training that you need to train your algorithm. Where else have we got? That's validation, serving the model when you create it to run on your operational system. But yeah, when you prepare your data, you've obviously got to clean it, normalize it, and then you've got to curate it, label, classify it, cluster it, whatever you're doing for the algorithm you need to. But as you can see, this is just an example of where that data, if your data is flawed, how you collect your data, the decisions you've made on what data you're going to be using is absolutely key. Everything is about the data and curating that data and making sure that it's ready for consumption. And sometimes your data scientists are under pressure to deliver a product, and they don't always pay attention to how important this piece is. Okay. This is just an example of from iTricks, where they talking. If you look on the right-hand side, the top 5 challenges in AI right now, and this is a report in 2023 report. Obviously, they talk about encountering technology-related problems in the development process is their top problem. But if you look underneath what that means, one of them is obviously poor architecture choices. So using the right tool, making sure your data is centralized and prepared is all part of architecture. And then, of course, one of the things that stands out for us is the inaccurate or insufficient training data is at the root of that number one problem. Also, lack of AI explainability. If we drill down into what that means, it usually means not enough data to clarify the algorithm. to come to its decisions. So if you don't have enough data, your algorithm is going to predict things incorrectly. Then the number 2 problem they're talking about is failing to reproduce lab results in the real world. Again, they do not have the data available to replicate the real life scenarios. That is absolutely key. And it's just something you rather spend a lot of time figuring out the data and what data you need to achieve what your objective is, and rather spend a lot more time doing that than actually delving into just developing something fancy with your fancy AI system. The bottom line I want to highlight here as well is a data scientist is spending 80% of their time preparing the data, and they should be actually focusing on building those algorithms and models and testing it and producing the reports and making sure that from a maintenance perspective, those algorithms are solid. And the data engineer should provide, the data platform engineer should be providing the data, a trusted data, backed up by the data stewardship squad, which will make sure that they have the right data. Okay, now for the fun part. How is AI helping data management? So this was a great article by Sloan Review, but I mean, I'm starting to see it. Like I'm privileged enough to work with a tool called Databricks, and they've just brought out this Unity catalog, which is really, really blowing the socks off everybody's competition. There are some people there are some technologies and vendors out there that are also doing this. It's just that Databricks were the AI modeling people, but now they've brought in the data engineering component, and they've brought in the data warehouse component. They've brought in this unified catalog that is solving a lot of issues. Now, what they've done recently is brought out as well auto classification, and they are using AI to classify. So, for example, you create a catalog and you bring your data sets into your bronze area in your catalog, and it inspects the metadata and the content, and it suggests to you what this data set is about. And it also even suggests to you what each attribute is, so that when you present your catalog to your business, for example, it's enriched with that AI. So it uses basically ChatGPT-like technology to look at the data, inspect the data, and then give the information and kind of auto-classify it for you, which is absolutely brilliant. It also does look at PII data and flag those columns as PII, and it even asks you and alerts you to say, are you sure you want to share this? This looks like it's got PII data. Yeah, so it helps you build a very rich catalog. There's also tools out there that have got this kind of federation technology or sniffing technology that helps you go on into your environment and look at all the data that you have in all your systems. And this is especially important because you can't just worry about from a regulatory perspective, like retention and privacy. You have to worry about what data you've got in your emails, in your Teams, in your document management systems as well. And there are tools out there that can actually do this for you, and they can help you locate this data, these cataloging tools. Also, so that in quality, we are starting to see quite a few tools in the last, say, 3 years that can do auto classification. They can do your data quality for you, basically, in 3 different areas. So you've got, for example, I think I've got it in the next slide. Yeah, so I'll do that. Okay, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm going to go into the next slide. It explains it. Security, like I said, it can do PII detection, so from a security sensitivity perspective. And then obviously in the data integration spaces, we're starting to see tools like Data Fabric from Talent, and that they can help you build master lists. So they're almost tackling your traditional tackling and those traditional tools that can do your master data management, for example. You're starting to see AI being able to do some of that and already start suggesting master lists of data for you. Okay, so in the classification, so we've got tools like Databricks Unity Catalog, for example. I explained that. It looks at the contents and the data actually, and then it recommends descriptions for each and every one of those data sets and the attributes. So the other tools are like Azure Purview. It looks at your columns as well, and it flags PII data automatically for you. So that's great. In cataloging, some tools like Atlan use AI to classify the data and dataset relationships, and use the embedded natural language processing that helps you to do searching like Google. So you can then start searching your data all over your organization. They create that catalog for you, almost auto-generated for you. In quality, we're starting to see in Databricks, we've got, for example, 3 types of quality reporting that gets auto-generated. They've got snapshots, which is like traditional clustering and technical profiling. It gives you the profile of your data, how many missing records. They've grouped all the data, and you can get a quick picture and start to say, okay, I know what I can do with this data. They can also output all of that into a reporting table, and you can even add metrics to it on the fly. So it makes it's almost like you're doing data quality as you're building products. You start to build on that journey. You start embedding your data quality at the same time. It also does like time series as well. So it does look at quality for time series and does your range detections and trending. And then for your AI tools, it does inference data profiling for the data that you will be using for your AI model. So it can start doing clustering and things like that for you, because it's using AI for it already. From a security perspective, we've got here the auto classification. There's quite a few tools, so many tools out there that are already doing it. On the right there, I've got a picture that shows you the top 10 sensitive data discovery softwares that are out there. This was from a list. These are kind of the ones that were mostly people were using to do that. But I think most of the tools, like I mentioned before, Purview is already doing the Azure Purview. Data integration examples there would be like Informatica's Claire. They already even starting to, they analyze your data, and they even recommend optimal pipelines to be used. IBM's Watson, Knowledge Catalog, Talent's Data Fabric, Alteryx, Databricks, AWS Glue, the list goes on. So there's a lot of tech out there already, and you probably, in your businesses, you probably already have some of it. So you just need to start using it. Some key takeaways. We need data management to improve the quality of our data so that we can have good AI. We know that AI is here to stay. It's not a fad, and we've got to stop fearing it and prepare for it, and upskill our people to become orchestrators, and let AI do so if we train our people to become the orchestrators of the AI, they can exponentially deliver, and they don't have to lose their jobs. AI can help us to fast track our data management, our traditional ways of doing data management, which were typically very onerous, and in today's tight market and financially constrained market, business don't want to spend money on you manually cataloging stuff. They just really, because it takes time. So we can use AI, we can be clever and use AI to help us to deliver faster to our business.